Americations are often behind the scenes in many of these stories. Together, these institutions give away over $10 billion each year. In a story about AIDS, they may be funding some of the research. In a story about colleges, they're providing scholarships or paying for new buildings. When we talk about the homeless or drug abuse or teen pregnancy in America, the chances are that foundations are funding needed programs. And when we examine the things that grace our lives, museums, symphonies, dance, not to mention public television, foundations are often players in the story. Yet the world of foundations is mysterious to most people. Just what are foundations? Who controls those billions of dollars? Where does the money come from? How do people tap into this rich resource? The program you're about to see takes you behind the scenes into the world of foundations. There are no actors and no scripts. These are real people in real situations. You'll see people who desperately need funds and other people who make hard decisions about who gets grants and who doesn't. Join me now as we explore the world of American foundations, the people and the money.
A foundation, I think, is an organization who uses resources to build a base from which things can happen. I think the word foundation is well chosen. Foundations have money, typically. Sometimes they have other resources, but they certainly have money. That money then is to be used to establish a base on which various things can grow.
Selena Grant?
Yeah.
Where is she?
There are almost 15,000 homeless children living with their families in shelters in New York City. The overall goal of the association to benefit children is to make sure that every child has what he or she is entitled to, a place to live.
We were told certain buildings would be delivered to us vacant. And when we went into these buildings, which had no electricity and no heat, no toilets, not only no hot water, no toilets, we discovered that in all of them, almost all of them, there were homeless families. And we'd walk in and they thought we were coming to take them away or that we were going to take the building away. We had to go in as if they were wild animals and say, we're not here. We're not coming to hurt you or to take this away from you. We're here to help you. And it has haunted us ever since. These people are homeless too, but they aren't getting anything. They're living as best they can like cave people.
Not since Charles Dickens talked about the terrible situation in London in the 19th century has such a really purgatorial kind of atmosphere been established in which children are supposed to grow up.
This is guerrilla warfare. And we hope that private foundations will help us force, first of all, the government on every level to take responsibility for justice.
Starting up expenses are something that no government agency is particularly anxious to get behind, because what if it fails? They would much rather fund something that is ongoing, is established, and is stable. Well, unfortunately, most of the most needed nonprofit programs are not like that. Homeless children is a brand new phenomenon. AIDS is a brand new phenomenon. These emerging social issues can't wait for the government to decide that they're okay, mainstream, and that they're ready to fund. So we turn to the private sector.
What we're planning over there is a house, so that children who don't have a home can walk in there and pretend that they have a stove to cook on and a sink to wash dishes in. You don't know how badly a kid like this would like to wash dishes, right? And, dolls to play with, right? We want to use that private money to show that daycare will make a difference, that enriched daycare and family daycare and social services will make a difference and will help house people.
There are 25,000 foundations in this country. The number is not expanding quickly. They are composed of private foundations, community foundations, and corporate foundations who all together give away about $10 billion each year. That is 10% of all philanthropic giving in this country. Individuals, as always, make up the 90%.
So the question is, why start a foundation?
The background of my family is based rather deeply in what is known as the Protestant ethic, which caused people on the one hand to feel that they needed to work hard and achieve, and certainly my grandfather, who started the Standard Oil Company, did both of those. He started from a very modest background in upstate New York, never finished college, went to Cleveland, where he started a grocery business and got involved in the budding development of oil, made a great deal of money, came to recognize, partly because of some of his remarkable associates, that it was fine to have made it, but then how do you use it?
He could have run the foundation himself and given the money into it and thought about it himself. But in fact, he chose to bring in colleagues and other professionals to study the world's problems and to address it from that point of view. And to me, anyway, that represents one of the best things about foundations, that they give you both time and professional backup to think about complex problems that gifts to a sort of a boys' club by an individual on an annual basis generally don't involve.
Okay. 6 plus 2 is 8. 6 times 4. Okay. 6 times 4 is 26.
Our foundation is a little bit more proactive rather than just reactive. In other words, we don't just wait for grants to come in. We also go out and do some community needs assessment. And we went out into the community and determined there was a very definite need for some reform in the schools. McKesson started an adopt-a-school program.
Close the gap. Close the gap by taking that empty row out.
A corporate foundation is a way for the corporation to show its belief in the community. After all, that's where the corporation makes its money, that's where its profit comes from. And it's a demonstration of being a good public citizen, a good social citizen, by them being able to put some of that money back in the community. The corporation donates X amount of dollars to the foundation each year. And then the grants that are given away are from the interest from that corpus. We don't dip into that corpus on a regular basis unless it's a very, very lean year and you feel that you've got to go on because you want to maintain a level of giving.
What program language is that?
This is Visa Cal.
Oh, Visa Cal. Okay. That's marvelous.
What we want to do is expose them to a corporate culture so that they can feel confident when they walk in the door. They have some experience, they understand the lifestyle, they can talk the same language.
These are the ones you checked already. They just need to be signed. And these are ready to be mailed out. Great.
It's not just goodwill, because if we have a healthy community, then that's going to create the basis for a good, healthy corporation. You can't make money in an area that's totally depressed. So if we invest in good programs and help strengthen that community, then we're also helping ourselves.
I hope I'm not rushing this meeting, but we did talk a couple of weeks ago about getting together and creating a fund for AIDS Project Los Angeles. And I wanted to give you all today a copy of the instrument of trust that starts this, and then talk about how it can work if you want to do it. Are you still interested in that?
Sure. Yes, definitely.
Okay. The main question that someone's going to ask you, they're going to say, listen, I'm dying. I'm going to be giving you $1 million. Now, how do I know you're going to be able to manage it? Yeah. Well, we've been around 75 years. I mean, that's what a community foundation does. It manages money. We have 250 funds. You'll be 251. So I think that if we do that, that's going to greatly increase your ability to sell this project. People want a great deal of comfort. They want to be known, and they want to know that their money is going to go to some good purpose for a long time. And the fact that we've been around since 1915 is not going to hurt you. If 1,000 little private foundations got together and decided to share staff and share investments and share everything else, they'd come up with something called a community foundation. So that's what a community foundation is. It's a way for people to have small, permanent funds that get managed the same way that a Rockefeller or a Ford can.
When we received a $22.5 million bequest recently, the nonprofits in the community, many of them thought naturally that we had $22 million to give away again. In fact, we're going to invest that in the donor's name and recognize her benevolence to the community with the perpetual income from that fund, never touching the principal.
Yeah, I'm leading it off.
I believe Steve Gavin has a question about the Magalink proposal, which is the Communications Bridge Institute. Harvey, you're going over there, aren't you, tomorrow morning?
Mm-hmm. We're considering a recommendation to make an investment to see how well they do. And so I still don't have a handle on the issue of distribution, but I'll bet you that they're going to give it their best shot because it's with our support.
I brought my pad because Harvey's going to drop some gems.
Oh, I didn't bring anything.
I have no gems.
Why do you have to give me a cigarette?
I think Harvey's out of gems. Our interest in Communications Bridge Institute is not simply that you produce the video materials, but that you work with a population which I would characterize, and you can feel free to embellish on this, any of you, as sort of at risk or needy, or certainly in a population of individuals that's not characteristic going to be found in the entertainment industry.
Our students and our graduates are our crews, and on those documents, all of the students have on film, on air credits. Okay. That's okay. For their resumes.
That's important. I don't know at this point, as we sit and talk, whether or not you're going to get any funding. It's the question that you and we have discussed from the get-go, which is who sees this and what kind of an impact it's going to have.
And we offer it to all the cable networks in the Los Angeles area. And they have been picked up.
Do they show it?
Oh, yes.
They repeat them.
That's the problem, I think, with funding organizations, that they have not recognized that the money that's put into an organization like this to film for other nonprofit organizations means that funding dollar is reaching far beyond these four walls.
What happens is this. What I've got to be able to do on your behalf at this point as a program officer is convince every other program officer who's been out doing similar things to this with other organizations that your proposal is one that we ought to seriously look at. If a grant is made to you, it will be from the unrestricted pool. That means that you're in the heaviest competition.
This is an incredibly privileged job, and one that, it requires the wisdom of Solomon, and none of us have it. And as a consequence, we're in the nice position of being able to be paid to give money away. The frustrating part is there's neither enough money nor enough wisdom to always know where to place it. And there are always people that we have to say no to, which is the tougher part of our jobs. It's still harder, though, for the nonprofits to come up with the program proposals, to get out there on the line and actually deal with the community. And I think it's easy for foundations to forget that unless they get out and visit and remind themselves of just why they're in business, too.
I think we'll always be searching for private funding because we're a nonprofit and it's a wonderful cause, and why not? But I don't envision the same foundations giving year after year because they never do.
Association to Benefit Children. How are you, Roy?
Hey! This is Alice Paul.
Yeah.
Yes. Now let me take everything, and then you can settle down. And as you see, Gretchen's in there on deadline about something. Okay. So in a minute, the second she looks up and meets our eyes, we will start our tour.
How many children will there be in this program?
Probably about 125 at a time. Some will be neighborhood kids who are here part-time. Over half will be homeless. And their parents will be involved in the program. It's a program in which, just as at our other sites, we want to nurture and educate
the baby and the mother together, and provide opportunities for education and for apartment location and provide comprehensive services.
Very exciting. I think you know a bit about the foundation and what our interests are. They're somewhat narrow, and unfortunately, we are often in the position of having to say no to a lot of people we don't want to say no to because there are so many requests. It's unclear to me at this point whether or not we will in fact be able to help, but we certainly want to follow what your needs are financially and to give it every possible consideration if there is some way that it can go on to one of our agendas.
So much of foundation funding depends upon whether you've got a program that meets the foundation's needs, because each foundation is really rather focused and selective about what sort of programs they will fund. And so part of it is finding the appropriate source. If you have some sort of a vague notion of, gosh, farmers are in trouble and I'd like to help farmers, it's not going to fly. You have to know what you're going to do, what you need the money for, how much it's going to cost, and what's going to be the outcome.
When people are under a lot of stress, we've talked about how it tends to tear families apart. People stop talking to each other. If you're the only farmer in the community who feels like they're in trouble, you're pretty hesitant to say anything about it.
It seemed like everything just got to us. We hired somebody to get milk cows, and it was costing us more money, and the job wasn't getting done the way we wanted to get it done. My husband felt worse, and as he felt worse, the rest of us felt worse because we worried about it, and then everybody seemed like we were arguing.
The McKnight Foundation, which happens to be the largest one in Minnesota, was concerned that most of their grant making was centering in the Twin Cities area and very little or comparatively little of it outstate. It wasn't fully impacting rural Minnesota at precisely a time when rural Minnesota had a high degree of need. The response was to set up 6 separate initiative funds, 6 healthy, small philanthropies in rural Minnesota that weren't there before. They would ask some local contact person what they thought was needed.
So what we're doing with the Peer Listening program is helping people be better neighbors to each other by enabling just regular folks in the community to have the confidence to reach out to their neighbors,
Giving some people some training in how to listen, how to communicate, how to show the person that you can hear what they're saying.
My best coping tool was having someone to talk to, someone that I knew that was there, could listen to me and not say, well, this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. They just listened to what I had to say and didn't give me any advice either way. You know, they let me make my own decision.
Foundations can afford to be on the growing edge. They can afford to take some risks and to ask some adventuresome kinds of questions, and therefore to fund people who are at the growing edge and taking some risks. That's where we learn.
Hi, Al.
No. I just knew you were right.
How are you? Well, it's good to see you.
I just left a multiple sclerosis Southern California board meeting, and new facts have arisen which I want to bring before everyone because I think they're very important. In this particular case, we're really talking about lives of people who've been handicapped and their families and the difficulties that they have. The program ends May 30th. Unless there's further funding, it's over. The Heart Association, the Cancer Association, MS, and the Lung Association would each come up with $6,500. 4 groups, which would total $26,000. Our foundation here would come up with $59,000 for the balance of the $85,000 that the caregiver program of the money needed to fund the caregiver program for the next year, starting June 1.
The proposal that they have here for emergency funding is exactly the same proposal we got 15 months ago for emergency funding. This is a problem. I want to save it, and I know you all want to save it too. But I want to act with my head and not just my heart, Bruce. And this is a tough one for me. It's a very tough call.
You know, long term, I can't disagree with anything you're saying, Jack. I think, you know, there's got to be a plan, and they can't keep coming back every year and so forth. But the plan ends May 30th.
We have an executive committee. Yeah. You could do a telephone deal or a written one, and based on what you find in these meetings, it proceeds. So I'll make a motion that we allocate $25,000 to it, subject to the approval of the executive committee after meeting with the MS people and others.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
The next proposal for discussion is the Communications Bridge Institute Magalink proposal. Because we've received so many requests from nonprofit organizations for video presentations, video case statements, video fundraising tools of various kinds, public service announcements, educational tapes, and it's been frustrating. We've had a prohibition on most filmmaking.
The agencies have been making their own spots, and they are of such inferior quality that the television stations will not show them.
Even if you know how to do it, it takes a lot of money to make these spots.
These agencies won't be making the spots.
Megalink would be making the spots on a continuing basis.
This is a way of systematically testing it and using a relatively small amount of money to leverage a number of video spots.
Have we given funds to Megalink before?
No. We turned them down 2 quarters ago because we thought that they hadn't made a strong enough case for who was going to be viewed and how they're going to use it. But we thought that that's been taken care of.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions they want to raise about those two?
Finally, the next day sometime during the day. Yeah, in the morning it still was out.
Mr. B?
Yes.
Harvey Chess is on line 1.
This is the call. Yeah. I'll call you. Yeah. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Brock.
Harvey.
Harvey, how are you?
Okay. You sound quiet.
Listen, I want to say something to you. This job has an upside and
Okay, I hear it.
a downside.
Okay.
And in this case, this is an upside call.
Oh.
I want to let you know that the board went along with the recommendation.
Oh, God.
And the recommendation was that you receive the full amount requested, which is $20,000, and that's what's going to happen.
Oh, how wonderful. Harvey, you're really very clever. You really had me.
God, no. All right, I'll make sure they give you a call before they leave.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Harvey.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Okay. Mrs. Peters? Yeah, I'm delighted. Okay.
How you gonna do budget assistance? I'm tired.
I ran into the hall to the staff inside and I said, we have some funding to start the daycare for homeless kids.
How did she die? Did the buzzers come? Did the buzzers come? Yes. How did they come?
We got an umbrella. I've got an umbrella too.
An umbrella? You have an umbrella?
I have an umbrella.
Yes, I'm glad. So we decided to do it in the form of a house. because those kids have no sense of a house. Nothing was here, and you trusted that something would happen, and you also were wise enough to know that there was another person needed to do that
Gretchen,
stuff.
for our foundation, the most exciting thing is to see something that you fund actually happen, and actually happen well. And there's no thank you that's necessary. I mean, it's wonderful for us to be able to see.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Great. You want to play with the kids?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to eat some. But would you put some pepper in this, please, a little bit for me? Taquam. Again, the driver? Okay, you ready? Get your thumbs up. These are your thumbs. And the driver on the bus says, move on back, move on back, move on back. And the driver on the bus says, move on back, all through the town. That's it.
This program is produced by Maisels Films, which is solely responsible for its content.
Wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. Where are your wipers? Swish, swish, swish. And the wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. And the wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. And the wipers on the bus go swish, 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 all through the town. What else?
I found the driver.
Again, the driver? Okay, you ready? Get your thumbs up.
The public television presentation of this program is made possible by a grant from Gannett Foundation.
From viewers like you, thank you. Once upon a time, there were two boys, David and Tom Gardner. They were lucky because they had a dad who taught them all about money, investing, and the stock market. As David and Tom grew older, they started to teach others what they'd learned. And they revealed a secret Wall Street is reluctant to share. Investing is easier than it seems, which is why several years ago they founded The Motley Fool to help people achieve financial independence. Now it's one of the most popular places on the internet. They've also reached out through several New York Times best-selling books and their own weekly national radio show. And now, The Motley Fool Money-Making Life-Changing Special with hosts David and Tom Gardner.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you. Welcome to the Motley Fool Money-Making Life-Changing Special. I'm David Gardner. And I'm Tom Gardner. We're the Motley Fools. We take our name from Shakespeare. Shakespeare wrote of fools. The fool was the only character in the Elizabethan court who could actually tell the king and queen the truth without fear of losing his head. We're going to try and tell you some truths tonight about your finances that you may not have heard, because so few of us got any education about the subject of money in high school or in college, and most of us approach the financial subject with some fear. Hopefully we can introduce a little bit of education, amusement, and enrichment, have a little fun, and take that fear out of it. That's right, Tom. We take the long view as well. I want to introduce that ground rule right now. No short-term thinking, no short-term investing allowed. The Motley Fool preaches taking the long view, not getting rich quick. We don't actually think most people who try to get rich quick ever truly succeed. The right way to get rich is over time on your road to financial independence. And what does financial independence mean? It means being able to do whatever you want to do in your life. So if at any point you feel that we are not educating, amusing, and enriching you, the crowd, and you at home on our route to financial independence, I promise I will personally fire my brother. Thank you. Wow. I promise. Who's clapping? Wow. Let me tell you, I didn't know my job was at risk tonight, so let's get our caps off and get to work, Dave.
Sure, Tom. You know, we've actually hired a very expensive supermodel to do this tonight, Tom, because it's a high-budget show. Thank you, Amy.
By the way, Tom, nice nest egg. Thank you, Dave.
Up top.
I'm happy to have it, and I'm happy to have Team Nest Egg here with me. They're right out here, the Nest Eggers. You guys look great. You guys look great. Yeah. Okay, that's my team.
Your guys, Tom. Your guys.
They're here. Okay, now none of us, even we bald guys, very few of us actually got any education about this subject in school. Fortunately for David and I, we had a father who sat us down at a young age and said, I'm going to teach you all 3 lessons about your money. And Dad said to us, first of all, a really simple, rudimentary, almost offensively easy idea. Don't spend more than you have, guys. That was number 1.
Number 2 was use your savings to invest them in the stock market. Now, Dad was no expert. He was a lawyer. And Tom and I are no experts. We have no degree in the stock market. There is no school in our country that teaches the stock market. We're liberal arts majors, and we learn by listening, by reading, and by doing. And so all of those are things that are available to you. Listening, reading, and doing.
Dave, we're also experienced consumers. Many people who encounter the stock market and investing in their money for the first time and really think about making those investments think, I don't know anything about this subject. But the fact of the matter is, in America, of all countries, we're pretty darn experienced consumers, and we can look around us and learn some lessons from the companies that we buy from.
Yeah, and for us, it was Dad taking us into the grocery store and saying, hey, kids, look, chocolate pudding. We own that company, Norton Simon. They make the chocolate pudding. Let's go get more chocolate pudding, which made him a very popular dad with us. But what he was doing is he was connecting for us the insights that we had as consumers, the things that we love, the products and services, with an opportunity to become a part owner of the company that offers those things. That's the miracle of the stock market. That's what he was connecting for us.
Now, most of us, before we can start investing, need to actually get out of debt first. And we know some forms of debt are actually fine. A mortgage, student loans carry low interest rates, and they're actually borrowings that are investments in our future. But there's a slew of American debt, unfortunately, that's actually credit card debt with very high interest rates. The average American today, shockingly, has $5,800 of credit card debt at 18% interest rates. And darn it, we should be able to get out of that, because when we pay $5,000 in credit card debt, we pay $1,000 of interest each year to get absolutely nothing.
Actually, that's not true, Tom. You do get a free Aspen ski vacation for your credit card banker.
Okay, that's true. So you can feel good about that.
Yeah, it feels really good, doesn't it? But what a shocking statistic it is. And let's take $1,000 of credit card debt. And you know how long it takes if you just make the minimum monthly payment to pay that off? I'll let you guess, Tom.
I feel a quiz coming here.
Yeah.
Let's see, $1,000.
Minimum monthly payments.
18%. I'll say 3 months to knock that off.
You can take another shot, Tom.
Okay.
I don't think you'll ever guess.
Okay.
Have you ever been in debt? Apparently not.
I'm actually going to go with 19 years, Dave.
Exactly. It's almost as if he'd known the answer.
I feel good. You can bring your quizzes my way all night. Bring them.
It takes you 19 years to get out of debt if you're just making that minimum monthly payment on $1,000. So we really believe that instead of investing in those credit card companies and building up their skyscrapers, why not invest in yourself? And Tom, that's one of our big messages tonight. Play the game differently. Invest in yourself.
And Dave, actually, we want to give some specific tips for people who are in credit card debt. We think we can help you. But the first one is just resolve. Actually being resolved to pay down that credit card debt. Most people don't realize how painful it is. You cannot start investing toward your financial independence if you have 18% interest rates on your debt. Now, a story came through to our site 2 years ago from a guy named Chico Martin, and we've got a photo of Chico. And Chico actually wrote us and said, guys, I want to tell you about my life and my fight for financial independence. It all started when I was born in Alabama as a sharecropper on a cotton farm to a family that was really living a subsistence life. And at the age of 18, I went out and joined the military. And for the next 15 years, as I traveled around with the military, I actually never had to pay any of my own expenses. The Army did it for me. So it wasn't until I got to the age of about 35 that I actually had a job and I had to figure out what to do with money. That was also the first time that I started getting unsolicited offers from credit card companies in the mail. And unfortunately, I accepted 8 of them over the years, and I ran up $57,000 of credit card debt. Now, even more shocking to me, upon reflection, is that I've had a wonderfully successful professional career. I'm a manager in the finance department at a public telephone company, and yet, here I am with this credit card debt, and I haven't knocked it out. Chico stumbled upon the Motley Fool website and actually decided, resolved to pay it down. He took every single dollar he could, and over the next 2 years, he actually paid down $60,000 of credit card debt and started an investment account of $10,000. The first step is just to get resolved, to recognize that that's actually the very worst form of debt that exists out there, and that's the form you need to pay down before you can ever start investing.
And Tom, that's why our first money-making, life-changing point tonight on your road to financial independence is?
Pay down double-digit debt. It's okay to have interest rates on debt that run 9, 8, 7, 6, 5%. But once you're above 10%, you actually have to commit to paying that down first. And it's not as difficult as it sounds, and I think we have a couple good tips.
Well,
to get
Tom,
you
right now,
started.
I'm feeling a little bit momentum. I like the name of our show, The Motley Fool Money-Making Life, and we have these moments baked into the show. I feel like we're all on a big train right now, just chugging forward. You remember that song, Train of Fools? Remember that? Train, train, train.
Dave.
Train of Fools.
Dave, it's Chain of Fools. Yeah. That's pretty embarrassing. We're on television here,
Chain of
Dave.
Fools.
That's Chain of Fools. Chain of Fools.
Well, hey, it's our show, and so it's a train of fools on this show.
Okay.
It's a train of fools, and we're all going forward.
Okay, I'll give you applause on that.
Thank you. And so we're on our next step, and let's talk about how to get out of debt, because it's one thing to point it out, it's an entirely another thing to get out of it altogether. And Tom, we got an email a few weeks ago from a guy named Stuart Rushfield. Let me tell you about Stuart Rushfield. Stuart and his wife, over the course of their early lives together, racked up $84,000 of debt. We're talking about $38K on the credit card, 8 of them, 2 cars at $14,000 each in loans, 2 separate brand new cars, and $18,000 in student loans as well. And Tom, faced with that situation, they realized with a child coming that they had to take steps. So the first thing they did is the first thing everyone should do in that situation, and it is this. Don't use the credit cards anymore. Just use cash. If you've got 8 cards, maybe you save 1 for convenience. It's helpful to have plastic. But cut up the other 7 if you need to, and don't use them at all. And that's the first thing that Stu did. The second thing that he did is he decided, you know, honey, if we're going to actually get out of this situation, we have to change our mentality. For now on, we only spend based on need, not on want. And the third thing that they did is they lined up those credit cards just before cutting them up by highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, and they took them one at a time. This is the one to attack, right out here, the highest one, not the one with the biggest balance. Whatever you're paying the highest interest rate on, that's the one to go after first, and it's a snowball effect. And Stu told us that his second greatest achievement of his life was getting out of that debt. He's gone from minus $84,000 in the hole, to just a few $1,000s today, Tom. And by the end of the year, they'll have that paid off. The greatest achievement of his life is, of course, the little fella up there.
Now, Dave, a great fourth tip that we have for anyone in credit card debt. Here's the dirty secret of the credit card industry. Those interest rates on your cards are actually negotiable. They are very negotiable. Credit card companies pay a lot of money to get your business and my business, and they don't want to lose that. So we just give them a phone call and negotiate the rate. And Dave, I actually think now is a perfect time to call up my credit card provider.
Okay, great.
Just give them a buzz on the phone and see if maybe I can't get my rate down here. So,
First Federal.
Hi, my account number is 462-3747.
Hello, Mr. Gardner.
Hi. Look, I'm looking at my credit card bill for the last month, and I've really enjoyed doing business with you guys over the years. But I'm seeing that my interest rate is 17.5%. That seems awfully high given all of the unsolicited mailings I'm getting from other credit card companies in my mailbox each day. I'm wondering if you can get that rate down to, say, 10, maybe 11%.
Mr. Gardner, let me check with my supervisor.
Okay.
He figured it out. Mr. Gardner, we would be happy to drop the rate to 11.5% if you think you could pay that off.